open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, and other farm animals, this is Irinia here with episode 5 of Kerbal Space Chronicles. And as we move into the second phase of our program, we are going to the moon. We are going to explore the moon. That's our next contract, is to fly by the moon. And that'll get us a whole pile of cash. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And upgrade the administration building, because I want to see if I can get the next batch of strategies. But we'll be right back in the vehicle assembly building to show you the spacecraft I am going to take around the moon. And we're back in the VAB with Project Baltimore. Now, I wanted to show it to you before I put the end fairing on, because I wanted to show you some of the compromises I had to make. Now, you'll see by the engineer's report, I can only use 30 parts. That's because I'm still using the level 1 vehicle assembly building. I'd like to upgrade to the level 2, but I need more funds for that, and I think I can get those funds on this mission. So we're going to go ahead and build Project Baltimore out, but I wanted to show you just what I had to do to make sure all of the stuff was crammed in. Now, I'm using this small antenna because it uses very little power, transmits very quickly. I'm only using 2 solar panels, where normally I like to use 4, and the same thing with batteries. I'm only using 2 of those. I've got about as much reusable scientific equipment crammed in here as I can, except for the boxes and the microwave, which are from one of the mods that I've installed, as well as a few other miscellaneous parts. But I've crammed just about as much science into my 30 parts, minus the parts I'm having to use for the rocket, as I can. This was the result, and this is going to be the spacecraft that flies around and maybe even enters orbit of the moon. So stay tuned. And we're on the launch pad with Project Baltimore. This is the 6th, I believe, launch of this space program. And we're going to take this all the way to the moon. Now, as before, I'm going to go ahead and run the launch in 2 times physical time acceleration with Mechanical Jeb's Smart ASS enabled, to allow me to fine-tune the trajectory as we go. Love that startup sound for that engine. It's just like the actual start cartridge sound of the actual engine that's based on the LR87, which was used on the Prometheus. That's what this is, on the Titan II Gemini launch vehicle, the one that launched the Project Gemini spacecraft. And we really are off like a shot. I didn't expect it to be quite this powerful straight out of the atmosphere, actually. I need to throttle back, but gosh darn it, hibernation's on it. I really need to pitch over. Got way too much of a kick than I was expecting. I really gotta start remembering to disable hibernation. Before we launch. So that's done now. Jeez, I did not expect to get quite off with this much of a shot. Already detaching the fairings. They're going to drop us to the horizon so we pick up some horizontal speed too. We really did get kicked a lot harder than I wanted to by that first stage. I need to tune that back if I'm going to be using it with this light of a rocket. Jeez Louise, that was quick. Even at 2 times regular speed, I did not expect it to be that quick. But hey, we're already almost out of the atmosphere. We're already approaching our target orbit. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just sort of cycle the engine until I get what I'm looking for. 44. 45. There we go, and we're about to exit the atmosphere. There we go. And we have new science out to transmit already. So we're actually going to go ahead and do that. Go ahead and keep all that data. I'm going to... Can I not deploy the... Extend? Can I not deploy the magnetometer boom? I thought it was a folding magnetometer boom. Evidently, it can't deploy. That's weird. Well, maybe because we're still attached to the spacecraft. I don't have maneuver planning yet because I have not upgraded much at the Space Center, though hopefully this will give us the money to do that. Though I am going to deploy the solar panels, because we need to start getting power. And transmit. Put on 5 times time acceleration. Let the data transmit. See how little power we're actually using? And once I get the solar panels pointed at the sun, we'll be able to use even less. Now, we're coming up on the burn. I've forgotten I hadn't installed the higher res version of stock visual enhancements yet. It's a slight oversight on my part. My apologies. Oh, a little too far. Okay. Orbit prograde burn. A little bit further in the orbit than I meant to get. We're still going to really quickly just burn this thing into orbit. 148 by 144, it looks like. Alright, we are safely in orbit. Now it's time to take this to the moon, and I was kind of zoomed into the planet there. Now we're already toward the moon. That's probably the Geiger counter, yeah. Might as well get that data and transmit. It's extra science, you know. Okay, now there's the moon. We need to come all the way around the planet, because I'm doing this without maneuvers or assistance of any kind. Yeah, there's the moon. So we're going to go ahead and time accelerate around the planet. Okay, there goes the moon. Now, where am I relative to the moon? Because I need to burn as soon as the moon rises. That's the really easy way to get to the moon. If you're in pretty close to the same plane, which we are, we're at less than 1/10 of a degree inclination. Oh, yeah, I really do need to get the higher resolution textures. That might be helped by anti-aliasing, but still, that's not a desirable effect. Yeah, and there's the moon just coming over the horizon now. So we're going to go ahead and ignite the engine. And this might actually get us out to the moon. We might actually be able to land this thing. I know, scary thought. And I accepted a couple of other things. An orbital survey of Phoebe, which is, or Phoebe, or however the hell you want to say that, which is Kerbin's outermost moon. And also the moon probe's strategy through Strategia, which will get us some extra stuff out of the moon. Okay, I need to throttle back, because I need to get as close to the moon's actual orbit, which is 45.6. 42, 43, 44, 45... 342. That's pretty good, honestly. That should get us a pretty good trajectory out to the moon. Now you can't tell that we're going to meet the moon, but as you can tell, we come pretty darn close to the moon's orbit, which is a circular 45.6. So if I've done my burn correctly and at the correct time, as we time accelerate out, we're going to go ahead and collect the high orbit scientific data. Keep all that data and make sure we transmit it through the antenna up here, because that one will use the least amount of power. Again, the things you've just got to remember when you're working on a spacecraft with limited power. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually remember my control axes and turn just a little bit more. Because if I can bring all of this in line with the sun, I'll get maximum power out of the solars. See, now I'm getting 1.3 almost. If we can just hold that orientation, we'll get maximum charge, 1.3 kilowatts out of the solar panels. Each one's giving me about 660 watts. It's only 0.88 sun exposure, but that's because the angle of the panels, they sort of fold back. If they folded straight out, it would look a lot better. Now we're going to time accelerate a lot. We're going to go to 10,000. And we're just going to come sailing out, and eventually, bam! There we go, right into the moon's sphere of influence. We're coming in, well, actually, we're going to slam right into it, so we're going to have to make some course corrections. But first things first, science spam. And we have a whole roster of experiments to collect. 10 of them, more specifically. Go ahead and keep all that data and start transmitting it back through the main antenna. Go ahead and make science alert go away. Now I need to burn radially outward in order to lift my periaps and suppress my apoaps, because we are currently on a parabolic trajectory. Or I think at this point we're in a hyperbolic, or on a hyperbola, actually, hyperbolic. But we need to go ahead and flip around. We need to turn that into a hyperbolic trajectory, which does not intersect the moon. We don't want to slam into it. And lift our periaps above the surface so that way we can burn at periaps to get into orbit of the moon. I'm just going to go ahead and ignite the engine. 3, 2, 1, cut. That's a little bit too much of a kick. That's more than I wanted. I'm actually going to turn the spacecraft around. I shouldn't have gone to full thrust. That was my bad. It's amazing how little thrust you actually need this far out on a radial burn. Like, you'd be surprised how little thrust you actually need. And then we'll use the rest of the spacecraft to burn into orbit. Okay, just go ahead and tamp down the altitude a little. I want to get to about 50 kilometers. 54, that'll do fine. We only used about 100 meters per second. If I'd actually been careful, we'd have maybe used like 60. But that's just me not being careful, you know? I'm just kind of fudging this in. And here we are, coming in toward the moon. I really wish I could have shown you this with stock visual terrain, but like I said in a previous video, I was just getting really quite unplayable, unfortunately, which is disappointing. But either way, we have more science spam. Another round of 10 scientific experiments to do. Gonna let the spacecraft finish pitching around. Maybe we'll get a little bit of power. Oh, we are. Yes, we are. Actually, we're getting power output of, well, let's start transmitting the data. Ah, shite. Stop transmitting. I forgot about that. I'm glad I caught that, though. I have to keep it and then transmit it through the main antenna, otherwise it'll do that. Go ahead and go to 5 times regular speed. 5 times physical time acceleration. And there's still going to be experiments to do. No, actually, did it transmit all of it? Transmit data. Yeah, it did. Huh. Okay. I guess we don't have to worry about that. Now, we need to hurry up and get into orbit here, because we are, thanks to that little mess-up of mine, hurting for power. We're down to about half our battery power. So I'm going to go into 10 times physical time acceleration and just let the spacecraft come in over the moon. We changed biomes. That's the Geiger. Yeah, that's the Geiger counter. Really shouldn't be transmitting any more scientific data until we fix our power situation, but a Geiger counter reading doesn't use much. And we're just going to come scooting in here till there's about 5 seconds left. 7, 6, 5. And just light the engine. And there we go. A little bit higher of an orbit, a little bit eccentric of an orbit, so we're actually just going to let the last stage do the rest of the work. I wonder why I can't fold that out. That is weird. That's unusual. But either way, ignite the last stage and just use its power to bring us into orbit. Okay, there we are, 57 by 32. We're in orbit of the moon. Now, I might actually have enough fuel to try landing this thing, but I'm not entirely sure. It'll probably slam into the surface, but we're going to watch that in the next episode. In the meantime, stay tuned for the outro. Here's just one of the patrons helping to make this content possible. If you want to see your name here, pledge at least $10 on my Patreon page. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, subscribe, or join us on our Discord and Facebook communities. If you really want to support the creative journey, either buy me a coffee for a one-time donation, or become a patron. Links to both pages are also in the description. In the meantime, this is Arinia, signing off. Take care.